Had to get the mic on. Happy Wednesday. That's what it is. It's Wednesday from now on. Welcome to Bible Study with an Ex-Pastor, where we learn the Bible, laugh at the bullshit, and liberate ourselves from the fear that kept us bound in the first place. I'm so glad to see you all here tonight. Man, and of course, you know, we prioritize people over priority in this space. And this really exists for people to confront their fears and to comfort their questions, while also helping people get some helpful information, especially for those of us who are proactive about building community. I often tell people that leaving religion is not just a letting go, it's also a getting up. And so that's what we try to do here. How y'all know I was lighting up? It's Wednesday. That's what you do on Wednesday. You know what I'm saying? So if you haven't caught on by now, our unique perspective is that these are not religious texts in the modern sense. They reflect a time when there was no delineation between God and government. In that manner, we treat them as political superstition that shaped hierarchy and obedience. And we aim to empower people by recognizing how these systems operated. Now, if this is your first time visiting this space, hello, my name is DaranteLaMar, and I'm committed to empowering people and communities through critical thinking, humanistic values, and progressive people-centric solution. And tonight's recap is kind of dedicated to that commitment. Because we've been going through Numbers chapters 1 through 20, we've pulled a lot of community and leadership development principles from the journey that we've been on. And tonight I want to hyper focus on that a little bit. Every day is Wednesday, right? I love it. Thursday, Friday, and the weekend, and Monday and Tuesday. Every day is a good day for weed. You know what I'm saying? It's 420 somewhere. That's how I say it. That's how I tend to look at it. And again, thank you all for being here today. For those of you who are on our email list, today is Wednesday, so you know what that means. A new email went out today, so make sure you check your inbox, check your spam if you're not accustomed to getting email from us. If you're a new person who just signed up, make sure you check that spam folder and move us over into your inbox and mark us as a safe sender, and you might find you've missed some emails from me. But we do send those out every Wednesday. So as of today, a new email went out. That's right, it's Wednesday, baby. Wednesday. Another email went out today, so make sure you check that out and read it, so that way you can stay up to date on what is going on with what we're doing with DaranteLaMar, DLDD World Group, Together We Can, Window Shop, Bridge City Global. Like, it's a whole thing over here. You know what I'm saying? It's a whole thing. Man, look, I'm so happy you found my channel too. Look, yes, praise him. Won't he do it? Yes, the fuck I will. Hallelujah. Oh, if y'all didn't know, I cuss. Sorry. I'm sorry. I hope I didn't scare you. I do cuss. I cuss. And sometimes I cuss a little bit more than people are comfortable with, but that is how it is. Also, thank everyone for I just want to thank everybody for making Things Christians Say not only one of my top videos on this channel, but a #1 downloaded item on Windows Shop. And then actually with last week's Bible study guide becoming a strong #2 in that category. So that is just awesome. Ooh, I love that, Rainbow. Yes, there's no such thing as bad words, just bad intentions. Oh man, y'all just wait, because this is just the beginning, right? This is just the beginning. And for those of you who are tuning in, not live, hey, look, I'm sorry. It is what it is. But this is just the beginning. Right now, we're just doing content. This is YouTube. You folks are tuning in. But wait till we start building local communities where people are, because that's where we get an opportunity to do the work. That's where we get an opportunity to normalize adult conversations. That's where we get an opportunity to normalize human feelings. Like, it is time that we begin to celebrate humanity in all of the shades that we come in. I want to see entire kink festivals, but you need local communities who can make that stuff happen. Back to regularly scheduled program. Did I say kink festivals? I did, but it is what it is. I'm tired of people being shamed for stuff. I'm tired of feeling ashamed for stuff. It's time that we create a world of liberation. And I mean, for us, for those of you who are connected, everybody's connected to DaranteLaMar, DLDD World Group, Bridge City. This is rising season for us, right? So this is this season for us where we're purposely, intentionally reflecting on ways that we can keep moving forward. Damn, that reminds me of one of my favorite animated movies. I cannot remember. Meet the Robinsons. It was a great movie. There was a song in that, and I'm sorry y'all are just going to get this, number one, because I'm high and I feel good. Oh my goodness, there are kink festivals, Alyssa. All right, yeah, I'm going to need to be on that email list. But there's a song in that movie, because I absolutely loved the plot and the story and the moral arc, if you will, of that story. Again, that was Meet the Robinsons, a Disney movie, I think. Absolutely love the intentions of it. As a matter of fact, it's something that I may use. It's something that I may use in our upcoming series for Sunday Sessions, Happy Little Accidents. But I'm going to try to sing this. It was like, let it go. Let it roll right off your shoulders, don't you know? The hardest part is over, let it in. Let your, I think it's gravity to find you in the end. Hardest part, our lives are made in these small hours. Oh, God's Little Wonders. I had to sing the whole damn song to get to that point. But that was the name of the song. Obviously, God's Little Wonders, I'm not a fan of that shit. But just this idea of moving forward, always moving forward. And that's kind of what we're doing in this rising season and what we're going to be doing tonight. Now, check this out. I do have to dip out early. Now, for those of you who don't know, yes, I'm married. Well, for those of you who come in on our lives, you should know, because if you hang out long enough, you see my wife out here. But I'm married and I have 4 kids, 2 of which are going to be seniors next year, 1 of which is in private school. Well, 2 of which are in private school. 1 of the seniors is in private school. And so tonight they're having a course selection at the school. Now, don't come for me at the private school thing. It was not my choice. It was not my wife's choice. We have a blended family. We have to deal with what the decisions that the other family make. So, hey, fuck you for those of you who tooted up your nose as soon as you heard it. But any of you, my other 2 who are not in private school, they're also homeschooled. They're on a public school curriculum, but we infuse that curriculum with extra curricula because that's who we are. And all of them were homeschooled for a period of time because I went through the public education system, and I don't give a damn what you say. I don't trust that motherfucker. So that is what it is. I knew for sure that, majority of the people who voted in these recent elections, I just want to let you know they graduated. That's something that should make you think. That's something that should make you pause and think that these were graduates who made these votes. And some of them got further than just public schools. Some of these folks got full damn bachelor's degrees, master's degrees, and doctorate degrees. And I just want you to understand what that means about the state of education in this here United States. All right. So I did all of my thank you. I know it was a great song, Kyle. It was a great song. God's Little Wonders. Which I think we're humanist enough to be able to, as long as we know nobody really believes in a God. I think those are words that we can preserve. It's just they don't feel safe right now, and so that actually is one of my favorite songs from cinema type stuff. But just damn, as soon as we get to God's Little Wonders, it's just like, damn it. I don't like that part just because that word isn't safe right now. It just doesn't feel safe. Oh, man. Yes. All right. So tonight what we're going to be doing is a recap because I got to get out of here a little early tonight. Well, quite a bit early tonight. We're not even going to get to go a full hour. But I do want to give some good information to the 26 of you that are in the chat. What's up? How you doing? Have you liked this yet? Have you shared this yet? That's very important. Let's share this. I don't know if you know this. One thing that I am unapologetic about is that we are growing on purpose, right? There's a few reasons we're growing on purpose, and some of this we're going to hit in here. We're not just going to sit on the sidelines and be the midget on the mountain. We're not just going to be the people out here yelling loud and making a lot of noise. The reason I am as committed as I am to making as much content as I am, and right now, let's be real. Who coming as hard as I am right now? Who's bringing as much content as I am right now? And to be honest, hey, get out your feelings. This ain't about my ego. I don't even do this for my ego. I do this because it is necessary that we actually get this good news out and actually start building community. So the goal isn't just to have people to come listen to me and say, damn, Darante's so great. He's awesome. Hell, I know that. I don't need you to tell me that. I know I'm good. I hang out with me every fucking day. I'm one of the coolest people in the world to me, but that's not what this is for. What this is for is to get people excited, to get people connected, to get people organized, and to get people mobilized so that we can actually start building community that makes a difference. And so that's why I'm here to grow on purpose. I make it very clear, baby, I'm here to win. I'm here to win. If I got to aim to be number one to do that shit, that is what it is. But I am here to win because there are people out here who have a passion for improving lives. There are people out here who have a passion for connecting with other people and actually changing the world, but they do not have the platform. They do not have the support. They do not have the network. So boom, here we are. We are here to assemble the Avengers, goddammit. That's what we're here for. Oh my goodness. Okay. So are y'all ready to jump into Bible study tonight? And make sure y'all are hitting those reactions, man. That's how other people know this is where the cool party is at. That's how other people who are on YouTube right now, when they see them reactions, when they see them loves, them 100s, them fanfare things, I don't know what that stuff is. So, I'm not going to spend too much time there. All right. So we're going to try to cover a little bit tonight. We're going to try to cover a little bit tonight from Numbers chapter 1 through 20 that we've already kind of hit. I see them fanfares. That's what I'm calling them. I see the hearts. And so we're gonna hit a little bit of that. And tonight, though, as we've been going through, we've been focused on the scripture and just focusing on the details that we can pull out. And I'm super duper proud of myself. Let me give myself a pat on the back because it took us forever to get through the book of Leviticus. And we're almost through with the book of Numbers already. And we've only been in it for 2 weeks. And that's because, again, I got hyper focused on making sure we can pull some value out of this content. Because, again, that's what I'm here for. So what I want to hit tonight are some of the, I want to dive deep on some of those things that I highlighted that we didn't get to go deep in. So one of those things is week 1, which was the March 26th. That was that night. We got into the book of Numbers, and there was one section that I included in the digital content guide. And again, for those of you that are new, the digital content guide is available on windowshop.us. I believe the content guide for part 2 is still free. Part 1 is not, and that's where this part is coming from part 1. But we're going to jump into this together. In that, I have a section called the secular voice of God. Now, I'm curious now. Now, I don't have a lot of time, so if you can answer quickly. When you hear the phrase secular voice of God, what comes to your mind? When you hear the phrase secular voice of God, what comes to your mind? And this insert in the digital guide, it came into place because within the first 10 chapters of Numbers, we run into a place where Moses, apparently for the first time, is clearly hearing the voice of God, even though Numbers 1, chapter 1 opens up with, and God said to Moses. But that's a whole nother other situation. I love that Rainbow Wrath oxymoron. I love that. Is that Madden? Is that Madden? I love that. Your own inner voice. Ryan Kotastic in the building. I love that. For those of you who are just coming in, the question was, when you hear the phrase, the secular voice of God, what do you think of? And that's because in this digital content guide from Numbers chapter 1 through 10, I included a segment called the secular voice of God, which we're going to go over real quick here. And this is because basically what I challenged myself to do as we've been going through the book of Numbers is to take my sociological background, take my industrial organizational background, and take my biblical background and reframe what we're reading as accurately as possible in a sociological context, in a way that just like any other literature, we could actually pull out some lessons for today. I love that sound fake, the secular voice of God. I feel like somebody's going to be doing this. I feel like it. But this is what I did. Pretty sure it means I need medication. Oh my God, I love this. Y'all are awesome. So this is what we did with this. We're pulling this because Moses apparently gets to a place in around chapter 10 in the book of Numbers where he finally hears, it may be chapter 7, where he finally hears the voice of God. And in the context of our secular humanist breakdown of Numbers chapter 1 through 20, I pointed out something different, that what it seemed to be, based off of the way the narrative is portrayed, is because our assumption to the text is that there is no God, right? Our assumption in the text, and I just realized my green screen stuff isn't set up the right way, but our assumption in this text is that there is no God. Our assumption in this text is that the people living these stories know that there is no God, or at least that they're not interacting with a God. And our assumption is that the people writing these things also know this. So the question then becomes, what else could these stories be about if they're not trying to tell us about this evil Abrahamic God monster? And so what I have theorized, hypothesized, if you will, is that these stories are political superstition. They're political fan fiction, if you will, as a way, partly ideological tales, but also as a way to give, and that's still ideology in a sense, but to give a sense of rhyme and reason to why we do what we do when we do. And so, in this sense, reading it through that lens, when I give this phrase, the secular voice of God, it's the idea that when we read through this narrative and get to Moses finally hearing the voice of God, it seems that hearing the voice of God equals, from an industrial organizational psychology perspective, it seems that hearing the voice of God equals organizational clarity. Now, to make that make sense, oh man, the actual Wizard of Oz was a secular voice of God. Damn, I like that. Oh, I like that so much. I love that. Damn, I felt that in the city of my sanctified soul, as us Pentecostal holiness folks used to say. Okay, so you can, and to mirror what I'm kind of talking about here, you can look at startup culture or any early stage movements. And some of this comes from some of my own reflections of actually leading a nonprofit organization as a church. In the early stages of building anything, it's a lot of chaos, it's a lot of passion, it's a lot of energy, and it's a lot of movement. And because of that, it's also a lot of confusion, misalignment, and disorder. And what we get when we're looking at the children of Israel, or these early Canaanites, if you will, who are deciding that they're not going to be Canaanites no more, which I guess that's how that go, right? Americans decided they weren't going to be Europeans no more. You know how they go. So these Canaanite folk decided they're not going to be Canaanite anymore. And, you know, they're creating these narratives about the why and all of that stuff. And there's this great Exodus narrative. And I have all of my reasons why I think they decided to include this Exodus narrative. But either way, this does still tell us that these are people who are trying to either reimagine or relive, you know what I'm saying, how they came into being as a people group, how they came into as a unique identity, how we are no longer this identity that we used to be, but we're now unique. And so you got to craft this narrative about this. And that's no different than, honestly, and I know some of you are going to be like, I don't know, but I know you don't. But it's honestly no different than starting a business, right? When you start a business, if you go and start a business, you decide that I want to create an identity that is unique. Even though I already identify with this nation, with this government, I already shop at all these other businesses, I now want to create an identity that is unique. I don't know how many of you have ever started businesses before, but that shit is chaotic. But maybe you've never started a business. Did you start a club at school? In the beginning, it is very chaotic because there are a lot of moving pieces. You don't know what is what yet. And sometimes that can be positive. It can lead to a lot of positive momentum because people are just excited and they're moving around. But many times that leads to misalignment and disorder, much like what we've been seeing expressed through the book of Leviticus and the book of Numbers, which is kind of showing us that these people are in a place where they're not ordered yet, right? And so by the time we get to the book of Numbers, remember what the book of Numbers opens with. It opens with a census. This is the first time, and I went through great detail to highlight this. This is the first official census in biblical record, if we're looking at the record as as chronologized in the Bible. You know, it's the first official census, and this census is their way of saying, who do we have? Why do we have them? What are they here for? And what can we use them for, right? It's no different than starting a business, starting a community organization, starting a group. And that's why I found this paramount to kind of pull some stuff out of, because I said, you know, hey, even though these stories are bullshit in the same way that Little Red Riding is bullshit, I have enough knowledge and I have enough experience that I can actually pull some stuff out of this for people who are trying to build community, for people who are trying to imagine a better world, that ways that we can practically use this stuff, right? All right, so let's talk about it. So through some combination of organizing efforts, typically vision, structure, team building, mission, and clarity, the group reaches a tipping point where the next steps ultimately feel obvious. You get to that place where it's like, oh, now I know exactly what to do. Now, sometimes we'll think that's because the leader is so great. All of a sudden, this leader just seems to know exactly what to do because he's so wise, he's so anointed, she's so wonderful. Jezebel just overflows through it, whatever. You know, we come up with all of these reasons why all of a sudden this person just seems to know, ooh, do this, do this, do this. But Numbers actually does a really good depiction of painting the picture while not exactly saying it out loud, is that what exactly allows Moses to hear the voice of God is this leadership structure. So it's actually not that Moses is hearing the voice of God. It's that for the first time in their structure, for the first time in their history as an organized people in the narrative, I get it. The first time in their history as an organized people, there is enough structure in place where Moses as a leader feels like he can hear clearly from everyone through the leadership. Because that's what, I don't want to say that's what leadership does, but that's what structure does, right? And it's this type of stuff that I think the secular community really needs to spend more time hyper-focusing on, which is, that's what I do. Anything that I say we need to be doing, that's why I'm doing it, because I'm one of those people who I believe anything you open up your mouth and you say other people need to be doing this, you need to be the first person doing it. If you're not doing it, you need to shh. You see how I did that? All right, let's roll. And so that clarity is often attributed to something special or even magical. And then we finally heard our voice in the startup culture or found our why, or it just clicked. And it's actually more like organizational physics. You have enough things bopping around that are actually connected where information can flow in a way that is useful, where you can respond to that information. And in the same way, you can think about that from a biological standpoint. It's the same way that our brain operates, because many times when we're trying to build organizational systems, we're trying to build them based off of our understandings. I think if we're wise, based off of our understandings of organism health. Is that a thing? Organismic health, orgasmic health? I like that too. But you know, but the point is based off of how organisms work, right? And so the way that organisms work is the way the more things you got working together, the more things you can do. And we have a whole body system. And remember, that imagery becomes really important in the New Testament, that you're not one, but you're members of a whole body. And it's like, damn, like y'all about to be mad at me because it sounds like I'm pro-Christians tonight, but I just got to say the truth. That's some language that the secular community really needs to understand, that really needs to lean into. I think we need to lean into that as humanists. We need to lean into that as a species, because that's still gold. I think that's still worth its weight in gold, is to be able to look at ourselves as a species, that we are one body. I know, and please, metaphorically, now, I don't want anybody to take that metaphysically and be like, yeah, we just all a part of one experience. I mean, that's fine. I like the art of it. I really do. I got a little pantheism in me at times, you know what I'm saying? But in this case, we're just talking about metaphorically, so that we understand that there is no sense of human that isn't valuable. We need all of these pieces working together. And in this case, that's what is happening, or I think is being kind of displayed in this story, is that we finally got the pieces working together. So now we can hear what's going on. And so, and that's what I call the secular voice of God. you know? And honestly, in all of your organizations, that's what you want. You want that secular voice, but that voice should always be the voice of the people. Damn, there's so much good stuff in that. There's so much good stuff in that, but my time is limited, so I want to keep rolling. And again, this is exactly what's happening in the book of Numbers, chapter 7. Again, the text says, and Moses heard the voice. And basically, I think we can translate that to mean, and the system finally worked well enough for a single point of leadership to make sense of what's going on. You know what I'm saying? You know what I'm saying? Yes. Absolutely. I love that. It's important to recognize the structures that are being used. It allows us to understand how it works. I would look at the best ways to avoid the manipulative parts of the structure. And that's one of the parts. I don't know if we'll have time to get into it tonight, but that's one of the parts that I go through in is it the guide from last week? Nope, it's the guide from week 1, from Numbers chapter 1 through 10. And the last section in that guide is notes on a modern framework. And oh my goodness. But then again, the whole guide, and again, last week's guide, I think is still free on Windows Shop, but the whole guide, that's what it does. It walks through these things and breaks them down from a secular humanist perspective, and then challenges us to say, okay, now what can we do with this information, right? Because at some point, I still want to laugh at the bullshit. And again, I want to do that not just because I want to laugh. I want to do that because it's healthy. I want to do that because that's what spurs curiosity. It frees your curiosity when you can laugh at the bullshit. But I also want us to be able to learn, how can we continue to win the war of attrition, and how can we continue to create a more progressive society? And that's ultimately, like, if my voice is going to be used for anything, that's what I'm going to be using this motherfucker to. You know what I'm saying? You know, maybe a little freaky shit too, but, still mainly pushing progress forward. All right. So again, and I break this down in that guide. And so what you get, the proceeding before the voice of God is creating the organizational infrastructure. And that's what we see happening through Numbers chapter 1 through 7. So in chapter 1, the people are counted. Then labor is divided, which means we create a division of labor. We create an economic system, an economic framework. Then space is assigned. So we're creating an operational layout. Offerings are presented. So now we're creating a buy-in and an investment and an undergirding for this economic system. And then roles are accepted. So now we're getting delegation and clarity. And then after all of that, for the first time since they've left left Egypt, actually since the first time since this people has existed, which is kind of the narrative point of Genesis, is to give this origin. For the first time, they are now becoming a people. And so now the group becomes coherent, the leader becomes legitimate, and the path forward becomes audible. And to this day, we still see organizations go through these same type of cycles. There's this type of chaos at the beginning, and then as this type of structure, whether it's centralized or decentralized, is a whole nother gambit. But after there is some type of structure, then the group evolves almost as if an emergent property, a coherent identity. And so in this case, I would use the voice of God in the book of Numbers as a metaphor for the emergence of direction from structured community alignment. And honestly, every organization, that's what they're hoping for. Every business, that's what they're hoping for. Everybody that's starting anything that requires that you deal with other people is hoping at one day that they hear the voice of God. I think that's what Snow White was about, having that mirror that you talk to. That's the voice of God. And anything, we who are not superstitious, we who do not believe in the idea of deities, in this case, the secular voice of God is nothing more than organizational clarity. But what we can pull from the book of Numbers, and as secular humanists, is to understand that organizational clarity is not something that happens just because we want it to happen. We have to be intentional about having an infrastructure that allows information to flow in a way that it can get to where it needs to get to. And ultimately, I think, and this might be my data science stuff here, but I think in a way that we could probably understand life by breaking things down to the flow of information. Things that allow information to flow better, flow freely, flow faster, tend to outpace other things. Now, y'all getting some good stuff now, so I'm I'm going to move the hell on. All right. All right. My clock is winding down. All right. So the next thing I was going to hit was Aaron's button staff, which that one is in last week's digital guide. And again, that guide is still free on windowshop.dldd.us. I also have a section in that one that I was going to hit tonight called leadership theory. But this stuff is so good, I don't know if I'm going to hit those two because I really wanted to hit these notes on a modern framework. And so that's where we're going to go to next, which means I can close out this tab because I'm not going to be using that one. And by the way, if you haven't liked, shared, or subscribed yet, I don't know what you're doing. It's a good idea to how did they say, get her done? It's a good idea to get her done. All right, so let me get my mouse back over on the right screen. I think because I played that lower third, it slowed down my computer for a minute. Yep, I see the lag. Okay, so don't do that anymore. That's what that's saying. That's saying don't do that again. Man, Aaron's button staff. I feel like that's a movie. I feel like we have to make that skit. I feel like we have to make that skit. Oh, man. Okay, so let's hit this. I want us to talk about notes on a modern framework. This is a section that I put in our Numbers chapter 1 through 10 digital guide. And y'all, for those of you who are getting these guides, make sure you go back to Windows Shop and leave a review. And let me know what you're really thinking about these guides. I really want to spend more time, or invest more time rather, into making more digital content guides, things that can help people understand the Bible, but also tools that can help people start building community, also tools that people can use to help them deconstruct, also tools that can help people reconstruct, because that's likely the biggest difference between me and a lot that is out here. I'm not as interested in the deconstruction as I am the reconstruction. I'm glad we deconstruct it. Oh my goodness, that's beautiful. But I hope that we all deconstruct it to realize that we are in a world on fire. And so because we are in a world on fire, I'm glad that you're free, but you really don't have time to tune out and take a vacation right now. This is really an all hands on deck situation. And I'm telling you, community is the only way you're going to be able to do this and have a sense of sanity. So we do need all hands on deck, but community is the best vehicle to make that happen. All right, so let's jump into this. This is good. This is good. A secular system of free collaboration. And I added these notes to that digital content guide because as we were looking through how these people were organized in the book of Numbers, we could definitely see that this was a hierarchical, military, industrial type framework for how they were organized. And so since we were exposing that and walking through that, I wanted to talk through, man, like, then what would be a possible different opportunity, our option than that, and how could we get there? And so I pulled together some notes on a secular system of free collaboration, and I'm going to share this with you tonight as we wrap up. The first one is, and these are just a few core principles that I kind of thought through, and I'll share the principles first, and then I'll kind of break them down. The first one is voluntary participation. The second one is shared purpose. The third one is mutual respect. The fourth one is transparency. The next one, because I'm not going to keep saying numbers, is distributed leadership. The next one is consent-based structure. And that last one is fluid contribution. All right, so now let's kind of break these down a little bit. Let's break these down a little. Let's break these down a little bit. All right, so voluntary participation. What does that mean? I don't know if you've noticed, but this is how we've structured everything we do, everything with DaranteLaMar, everything with DLDD World Group, everything with Bridge City Global. It's voluntary. People opt in based on curiosity, based on values, based on desire, not pressure, not guilt. You know what I'm saying? Though I do want to pressure the hell out of people to get involved. And I kind of do that sometimes on a Daily Atheist morning show when I'm there. And you see how I plug that in there? When I'm there Monday through Friday with Ryan Coltastic and Chris Mallard over on the Daily Atheist morning show channel. I do take that time to tell people you're being absolutely crazy and hypocritical and lazy if you're not involved with building secular community at a time like this. I do that, but I do that because it's sensational and it's needed and blah, blah, blah. But ideally, participation needs to be voluntary. If you're going to help, you need to be helping because you want to help. You know, that's how you build free that's how you build a system of free collaboration. But there also needs to be a shared purpose. There's a clear why built from collective input and evolving values. So for those of you who are connected to Bridge City, you're connected because of two things, because of our purpose and because of our mission. What's our purpose at Bridge City Global? Our purpose is to be a better way to connect. That's our purpose, to be a better way to connect, a better way to connect than superstition, a better way to connect than nationalism, a better way to connect than racism, a better way to connect than politics, to be a better way to connect while helping people find a better way to connect to themselves, helping them find a better way to connect to the world around them, helping them find a better way to connect to that human capacity that often gets overlooked, undermined, and underestimated. You know, damn, I feel like I'm preaching already. But then our mission is to build community beyond superstition that is people-centric, progressive thinking, and life-affirming, right? And if you notice, as beautiful as that is, and it is beautiful, it's not very specific. Why? Because it's value-driven. The goal isn't to create a plan and tell everybody else, hey, follow my plan. The goal is to platform values and see how many people out there identify and resonate with these values enough to say, you're not talking your language, you're talking my language. What you're saying is the stuff that I want to do. So we raised, damn, I'm preaching, man. I did not mean to be preaching tonight, but it is what it is. So we put the values out there, help people find better ways to connect by being a better way to connect, and then build communities that are 100% beyond superstition, that are places that are progressive thinking, people-centric, and life-affirming. And then you base everything off of mutual respect. Every role and person is valued. Status is not assigned by proximity to power. So one thing we've been very clear about, especially for those of you who've been rolling with us on Sundays, that we don't treat people differently here because of the roles they play, because of how much they give, because who has a big title and a little title. I'm a firm believer that it's the small strokes and the big strokes that makes the masterpiece. Big doors swing on small hinges. So there's no need to try to create this value system where some people are less valuable and some people are more valuable. No, baby, it's all valuable. See, I have an abundance mindset. I don't know if y'all have ever run into that before, but I have an abundance mindset. There is no quota on how many people can be valuable. Everybody is valuable. There is no quota on how many different things can be valuable. It's all valuable. The people who like these streams, the people who watch my videos and never give a dime are just as valuable as the people who got 99 problems and money ain't one. It is all valuable. We have to learn. Oh man, I'm sorry. The next one, I didn't mean to preach. I didn't mean to preach, but it is what it is. You know, they've been calling me the atheist pastor. They say Bridge City is the atheist mega church. I don't know how that happened, but it is what it is. The next one is transparency. Oh no, I got to go back to this proximity to power. This is one of the reasons, and for those of you who talk to me, I am fiercely resistant to people trying to make me their voice, their point of power. They're like, when people get to the point of, I just got to be around Darante. No, the hell you don't. The moment you're doing that, not only are you devaluing yourself, you are also devaluing every other member of this community. I don't believe in community because I just like crowds. I believe in community because the more people you have in the room, the more needs that can be met. I don't have everybody's answers, but if we got 5,000 people in the room, those are 5,000 different lived experiences. Those are 5,000 different backgrounds. Those are 5,000 different areas of expertise, or different areas of expertise. So the value isn't me. I mean, I'm good. I do what I do. I bring some value to the table, but the value is each other. So please never mistake proximity for power. You don't have to be close to me to get the most out of this community, because the power is in the community itself. And if we get okay, I'm moving on. So transparency was the next one. Information, processes, and I got to roll in just a few. Information processes and decisions are open and visible. Every decision I've made about this channel and what we've doing, I've announced it on Sundays in our lives. Every single one. I got to get better about announcing the stuff in the Discord, which I'm starting to get a little better in there now because my schedule is getting calibrated. But I'm starting to get better. But everything we do, I announce. It's just transparency. All right. And then consent-based structure, roles, decision, and conflict resolution all respect individual agency. And I think this is one of the reasons many secular people, many non-believers are terrified of community, because for most of us, what we knew of church, and I was a part of one of the most progressive forms of church that existed. You know, many of you, if you would have been a part of the churches that I was a part of, you'd likely still be a believer just because they were so awesome. But even as awesome as they were, the one thing that all of these institutions do that make all of us kind of gut check when thinking about community is they rob people of their individual agency. And I'm telling the community that if we know that all of these things were the problems, it's not good enough to just point at the problems. If we claim to be so smart, why can't we be smart enough to say, well, we can do that without doing that? And that's what I aim to do. Not saying that I have all the answers. I just believe in people that if we can get around, hey, here it is, and fuck around and find out, we can probably figure out what we need to do to move forward. And I will say one of my hypotheses about why the world is in such a horrendous state right now, it's not because we got 1% in control. It's because we got 99% who do not believe in themselves enough to get the fuck up. And I'm here to help you get up, baby. I'm going to help you remember who you are. I'm going to help you see what you are capable of. I run into so many people every day who don't believe that they can do a damn thing. But I hope that the more that you tune in into this content, that you begin to see yourself as that beast, that monster, hell, that God, if you want to, that you are, because you are a part of an evolutionary species. And my God damn, I don't know, man. Have you not seen humans who have lost limbs and have still done incredible things? And here you are, fully healthy. Thompson, I can't do this. I can't do this. Yep, I got to go in just a few minutes. All right, so let me hit this down. Let me hit this last one. And we're rolling out. My son just walked in. That was my sign that, okay, are you still coming? And it's like, yes, I am. All right, let me hit this. There was something in this that I wanted to hit. Have y'all been enjoying this tonight? Has this been good? Has this been good? I may share this one in the Discord, just this section on the Discord, because I'm not going to be able to get through all of it. What it looks like in practice, what I wanted to throw out there is open source projects. That's something I'm working to do with DLDD World Group and Bridge City. Worker cooperatives, that's something that I'm working to do with DLDD World Group and Together We Can with the support of Bridge City. Mutual aid networks, that's something that I'm working to do with DLDD World Group and Together We Can with the support of Bridge City. Digital collaboratives and think tanks. God damn it, we need this, y'all. We need the think tanks. We need more than just us pointing out what's wrong. We need minds committed to trying to create solutions. Listen, you know, I think one of the biggest flaws right now that we have as a species is we have not realized that government is just as big as a superstition as God is. I'll leave that alone right there. And then core components of a secular collaborative system is shared values and ethos, and I think I can go ahead and start running the credits, is a shared values and ethos, no gods or creeds, but clear collectively formed values like curiosity, empathy, mutual aid, transparency, critical thinking, and human flourishing. You want consent-based organization, opt-in roles, flexible schedules. If you know, when we were doing the volunteer forms, the one thing we were very clear about is please choose the amount of time you want to volunteer for. Like, don't, you know, and we had those things started as low as 3 to 5 hours a week. Clearly defined boundaries. Y'all mofos don't like to read, and that's the problem. I do a lot of writing. Like, we have a lot of guides, if you go through our Discord, that we've made for our Bridge City community. People don't always like to read that stuff. And I'm like, that's where you're losing your power at. You need to read that stuff. because that's where you're finding out that, oh yeah, they're making sure that I draw, that we have clear boundaries so that I don't overexert myself. And then power should always be negotiable. And that's a whole dynamic. Distributed roles, no single person owns the stage. You know, leadership rotates or forms based on task or project. Celebrations and debriefs include everyone. That's what we're trying to get to now. This is why we slowed down on some of the community infrastructure for Bridge City, is just because there wasn't enough people participating in the meetings. And so then I'm announcing stuff and I'm teaching stuff and I'm training stuff, but it's not going to enough people. And at that moment, as large as a community as we are now, unfortunately, that would create a clique culture, and that's just not something your boy is about. I'm more so interested in functionality, not ornaments, you know. And so that's what I'm trying to build us to get to. And then again, open contribution models. Anybody can propose ideas. Participation isn't locked behind status or seniority. Mistakes are learning points, not punishable offenses, you know. And then conflict transformation. No excommunication, no sin. And this is something, listen, secular community, I know we mean well by participating in the cancel culture, but cancel culture is that same form of excommunication. I think we need to rethink the way that I think we need to really expound on what it means to be a humanist. Because many times, in many conversations, my heart is saddened by what I hear. And we, okay, that's a whole nother thing. All right, anyway, conflicts are mediated with compassion and accountability and emphasis on repair, not punishment. These are gonna be the difference makers, you know? And in that guide, I also have some helpful tips on how to audit your system, right? All right, so with that being said, y'all, I gotta roll out. I told y'all this was gonna be a short one tonight. My son, my oldest, is gonna be a senior next year, and he's picking his courses tonight. And I'm committed to being a father. You know, as I'm getting my schedule back recalibrated, I'm committed to making everything that I can make. And to me, that's what matters. You know, that's how we continue to let people know that, no, we are happy, we are fulfilled, we are living because we protect what is important and we celebrate what's important. So hopefully the people who are watching and engaging right now, that you're not feeling like you've been robbed because I'm going to spend time with my family. Instead, I hope you're looking at this and saying, that's what the fuck we need. We need people who are doing these type of things. So I love y'all so much. Thank y'all. Let me get this closing scene out here, this outro, so I can get this thing triggered and started. I love y'all so much. Thank y'all for hanging out with your boy. Until next time, keep rising. I'll holla. I think I'll holla. Nope, I won't. I didn't. Okay, now I'll holla. Maybe I'll cut that out. Who knows?